This trailer here for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3 really blew me away. Honestly, it's really short. It's 30 seconds long, but it's a lot of new footage that we haven't seen yet. And I really think that this episode here with Daryl in the desert, just on his own, is really going to be one of the best episodes of the spinoffs. And also, I really do think that it could be one of the best episodes of The Walking Dead, but it just really depends on the story, I think, for that. I think a lot of the shots that we're seeing here, the cinematography looks incredible. I think this one shot specifically where you see the walkers on the railroad track here, like, this just looks really, again, very Western-like, right? And I just, again, watching this trailer here, and we'll break everything down here shot for shot, but this has me really hyped for Season 3, which is literally less than 2 weeks now. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want more Walking Dead content like this. I will be doing reviews and breakdowns of every single episode that does air, and it's not going to be this Sunday, but it is the Sunday after that, so it's very, very soon. Now, I'm really wondering if this is all connected here, because sometimes the trailers, when they're, edited and everything like that, like, it does look very different, right? Like, you'll have stuff that looks like it's sort of in the same scene or something, but it's actually in totally different scenes. But I feel like this is very similar here. So you do see Daryl, and he's riding his motorcycle in the desert, which I just think that, like, I'm really excited about this episode because of this. I think the idea of Daryl in the desert trying to survive is exciting, because I remember Andrew Lincoln actually talking about that with Rick. Like, there was something from an old panel a long time ago where he was talking about how he would like Rick Grimes' story to end, and it had to do with Rick, being the last one alive, basically, and he was in the desert, and there was a lot of walkers following him. And so it's very similar, honestly, when you look at a shot like this where you see the walkers on a railroad track, and obviously they're, for some reason, I guess, trying to get the train to this location here, and we'll break down exactly what I think is happening here. But I really do like, that idea where it's just one person in the desert trying to survive. There's like no food, no water, and are they going to survive? And I feel like with Rick, we'll have to wait and see if we ever get a scene like that. I don't know if we will, but we are with Daryl. So that is really cool. And I wonder if they thought about that, like if they thought about what Andrew Lincoln said, because apparently Andrew Lincoln, like, he told them about that. Like, he would like something like that. It'd be kind of cool. Like, he was likely saying that just really to joke around, but I still think, like, survival stories like that are a lot of fun. And I think that's the one thing with these characters that is really what makes The Walking Dead so special, is having these characters, I guess, put to the test, right? And these characters are just really great at surviving now. So it's one of those things where there's not a lot of tests that they're going to fail, right? So I think having Daryl in a situation like this, I don't know what the story is. I don't know a lot of the context of, like, why is he here? Obviously, it likely has to do with the community he just joined, and we'll know a lot more, obviously, as we're watching the story here. But I believe that this is going to be in episode 5. And so this shot, I just absolutely love this. I think that once we actually watch the episode and we have the context of, like, the music and a lot of what's happening with the story here, this is going to be a really relaxing, like, peaceful episode with a lot of action and stuff, I'm sure, but I think it's going to be really enjoyable. We then see Daryl here, and it looks like, again, this is sort of a continuous shot here, but he's saying world's messed up, and he's looking here at, I guess, what he's seeing here. And so we go to this next shot, and we see a bunch of walkers, and there's probably, 100 or 50 around there. They're not all walking in single file or anything like that, but there's about, 3 or 4, I guess, in a row. I don't know, I would say up to 150 to 100 around there. They're being led by somebody on a horse here, and it looks like this is how they transport resources, is they have stuff on trains. Obviously, I guess the trains just don't really work anymore, and so they have walkers actually pulling these trains and getting the resources to where they need to go. It's a really interesting way to, I guess, get things done. Obviously, it is going to take a lot slower. It's not going to be done, as fast as it was in the old world, but I mean, it's a way to get things done here, and it's very unique, and I really wonder how this relates to how Spain, responded to the apocalypse, and a lot of the communities that are still around, because we don't know a lot about, what happened to Spain during the apocalypse, and so I guess we'll find out here. But I think this shot specifically is really cool. The train in the back there, you're seeing whoever that is on the horse guiding the walkers here, and yeah, just the clouds and everything. I really love this shot. And then we see Daryl here, and yeah, the quote is, "You either go good or you go bad." And I believe this is related to a shot where Paz is actually going to show up here. And so this could be a part of the same episode, or it's a different episode. I feel like this is going to be very early on in episode 5. Like, I know that episode 5 is the one where I think is supposed to be a lot more like a Western. It's really the episode where it's like Daryl, I think, on the train. I think so anyways, but just based off of a lot of, the interviews and stuff that we've seen, it does seem like that's going to be really the episode where it does feel like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we'll talk about in a second. Then we have this really awesome shot here of Daryl, I guess, holding up this gun here. And I will say, stuff like this I find really cool. So he does this really cool trick with the gun where I don't know if this is how he reloads the gun or if he's just doing something just kind of, it's cool for the show kind of thing, but he like bounces the gun in the air kind of thing. And again, it might be a way to reload it. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, because somebody is showing up here who I do believe is actually Paz. I do believe she's going to show up here, and then she's likely going to talk with Daryl about something. Maybe it's related to, the journey he's about to go on. I'm not sure. And then we see this one shot here, which I was wondering how the flaming walkers were going to get in this community here, because it's very protected. And we actually see that, yeah, it looks like a catapult or something hits them here. And so that's how that's going to happen here. It looks like there's going to be some sort of battle in this community, and we'll see how that plays out, I guess. I'm interested in like the dynamic between how the community operates and other communities, because I know that there is supposed to be like this big villain out there that is like referred to as the king. And like, if you're referred to as the king, I mean, I have a lot of questions on how all that works in terms of all the powerful people in Spain and how, I guess that relates to France and what was happening there, because it does seem like a lot of the story, I think, for a lot of the countries in Europe, we're learning a lot more about, which is really cool. And I think that Scott Gimple is actually, he's putting a lot of work into, exactly what the state of the apocalypse is over there, because that is something that, like, once Daryl and Carol get back to America, I don't know if we're going to get into a lot of that anymore, right? So it's also now we're learning a lot more about, what's going on in Europe, and I imagine that season 3 and 4 are just going to go into that a lot more. And then we see a shot like this where it says, "To a new frontier," and I just really like the visuals here. I just, all the trees here, the gravel roads, like the mountains, like this is just going to be something very different from France, where there's a lot of just like really amazing shots like this. But I think out of all the spin-offs, this is the one where visually it's just so stunning. And whenever you see a new shot, like something like this, I haven't seen it before. It's just, again, it's so breathtaking. It's why I really love this spin-off specifically. And I do feel like The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon might be my favorite spin-off of the 3 so far. I mean, out of the 3 from the main cast anyways, because I think that like The Ones Who Live was great, but it was great because it was like Rick and Michonne, right? And it was Rick Grimes' return. So there was that, the CRM, like I like that aspect to it. Dead City, I like for different reasons here and there. But with Daryl, it's just, I don't know, there's something about the visuals of this show and them trying to get back home. There's a purpose to the show, right? The Ones Who Live was about Rick getting home. Dead City, there's not necessarily a purpose to the show, and I think that is the issue. I think there's a little bit more of one now with Herschel staying in New York, and so you kind of have something going right now, but I think from the beginning there wasn't really a goal by the end of the series, and I think The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon has that. They're trying to get home. That's the point, and so we will see how they eventually do get home, or will they? I imagine they will, but there's just a lot to look forward to with this spinoff, and I really just, again, shots like this just really remind me, like, this is such an incredible looking show, and I'm just so happy that they're actually in these places. We then see Carol here with a bow, which is really cool. That's like a callback to, I believe, season 9, season 10, where she got really good with using the bow, actually, with the Kingdom. So yeah, very cool to actually see that again, because she hasn't had that in a while, I don't believe, because season 1, she wasn't there. Season 2, there wasn't anything like that. So it's cool to actually see that, because that's the thing. Like, that was one of the things that, when they went into the A New Beginning arc, they actually really learned was using weapons like that, where you can actually reuse the ammo and everything, right? Instead of having like guns and all that, because I know Eugene was working on like ammunition and all that for the Saviors, the Sanctuary, but like there's just not a lot of resources for that. And I think using reusable ammo like this, it just makes a lot more sense. It's just something that, again, like Daryl, like that's why his crossbow just always was like very useful, right? Like he would just grab the bolts afterwards and he could just reuse all of that, and obviously he would make some here and there, but it just made way more sense in the apocalypse when you don't have a lot of resources to do things like that. So really cool to see Carol here with the bow. I mean, this is honestly a really awesome callback to season 9. And then we see this one shot here, and yeah, really incredible. Again, just the visuals look amazing here. I believe that the king here is somewhere here with the vehicles. We do see Daryl and Carol. They're actually watching them here, I believe. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the villains are all about. And I guess, you know, are we gonna not like them? I think that's the key when it comes to storylines like this, is we need to have a villain that is just not likable. I think if they're not likable, then like you want the villain to be gone, right? And you're more invested in the story. I think that's the one thing with this show is Madame Genet, she was a cool villain. You know, it's not like anyone didn't like her. She was just really cool. And so you were interested in what, you know, what was going to happen with her, but it was more the variant walkers. And I think that's where they kind of failed a little bit in season 2. It just wasn't as, you know, compelling of a story, I feel like, for the villains. And then we have this awesome shot here of Daryl in the desert. And I imagine this is related to a lot of the other stuff here. And we've seen this shot before. I want to talk about it again really quick because it just looks absolutely incredible with the sunset and everything. And this is where I want to get into something else here when it comes to this story specifically. I will do a video on this at some point. I will actually talk about this a little bit more in depth, but I want to watch the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly first, because Scott Gimple mentioned, you know, if they are going to reunite all the characters, it's going to be more like that movie and not like Avengers Endgame in terms of the tone or feel or whatever, right? Like, I think that makes sense because when you really think about how these characters are going to come together, like it just has to make sense and feel grounded and cool and just down to earth like it does in a movie like that. And Avengers Endgame is just very different. It's like, you know what I mean? I just don't see that working with The Walking Dead. You might laugh at something like that. So I want to watch that movie, maybe do a review or talk about how that could actually really, you know, build up to a moment with all the characters reuniting, because I think that getting shots like this where it's like very Western-like and very cool, that's something that's been missing for a while. And that is the best way to reunite all the characters, is you got to do it like that, I think. And I'm excited about that. I think that season 3 here could really honestly be an incredible season. I want to watch the season already. I feel like we've been seeing so much promotion for this for so long. Overall, yeah, this trailer honestly blew me away. I was not expecting this to, you know, it's literally 30 seconds, but it's a lot of the newer shots where you do see Daryl on his bike and he's in the desert, and it's just that survival aspect to it that it's so interesting. And that's what made season 1 so good of the show, where Daryl was in France trying to survive and he didn't know where he was going, and there was like this journey, and you know, so I'm really excited for season 3. I really feel like this show is going to finish off very strong, because season 2, again, there's a lot of issues there. I think it's the episode count. This season's getting 7 episodes. I really think because they're setting up a story here with 7 episodes, it's going to play out pretty well, I would say. The pacing should work. And then season 4 will have 8 episodes, and they're ending the story. So we know where they're going overall now. And I think there's just going to be a lot of excitement for how this show finishes. And I do think that this show is going to be, by the end, it depends on obviously like story choices and everything, but I think this could be like a solid 8 out of 10 for a show. A definite, like, yes, I would recommend. Obviously, there's some issues a little bit in season 2, but I think overall it would be a really great series to watch. I mean, we have to see season 3 and 4 first, but just based off of the trailer here and what the story is going to likely be, and, you know, depends on how they end it. If Daryl goes back to America, I think that would be honestly a really awesome conclusion to this story here, and it would be a really amazing spinoff. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.